today's video, we're gonna be talking about shutters. Shutters are one of those timeless, classic window treatments that have been around literally forever. They're easy to clean, they're super durable, they're actually really great at blackout or room darkening, and they can be sneaky complicated. However, we're gonna break it down super simple. Basically, when it comes to shutters, there's only a few important factors to think about. The material type, is it gonna be a PVC or polyresin, a faux or composite shutter, or a real wood shutter? Each one of those is gonna have different benefits, different challenges, and different price points depending on the supplier that you're looking at. After we talk about materiality, then we need to think about the louver size. Almost every brand's the same, a 2.5, a 3.5, and a 4.5 inch louver or tilting component. However, some of the custom shutter manufacturers may have a different size. For the most part, it's usually a 2.5, 3.5, or 4. After that, we want to think about the frame style, the hinge, and then the tilt style. So the frame style is actually the style of frame that goes around or inside the window when we're installing a shutter. The hinge is just that, the hinge color, the finish, and the paint or metal finish on the hinge. And the tilt style is something like this, where we have no tilt bar, a front tilt bar, or a rear tilt bar. So when it comes to shutter materiality or the shutter types of material, there's PVC or polysatin or polyresin, composite, and real wood. PVCs and polysatins are typically going to have a lifespan of 25 to 35 years before any type of discoloration or yellowing, depending on the brand, of course, and they'll be lighter in weight and a much better price point compared to the other two. Composites are made by mixing a PVC or plastic material with basswood or sawdust to create a stronger, more durable shutter. However, it's going to be heavier and it's going to cost a little bit more money. The benefit of moving to a composite is instead of it just being a white, an off-white, or an ivory, you're going to be able to inject some stains and get a true wood look. And then on the other end of the spectrum is a real wood shutter. Now the benefit with a real wood shutter is that it can be custom paint, custom stain, paint match. So if we want a shutter that's the exact same color as the wall or the exact same color as the trim, that's the way we want to go. The other thing that's important when you're thinking about the material is where it's being installed. So for a super high moisture environment, we may want to stick with a composite or with a polyresin or polysatin shutter. However, if we're not as worried about humidity, the real wood has a little bit of a more warm tone and has a little bit more of a natural look. Now there are some shutters that can be actually made of aluminum or exterior application shutters, but those are very rare and highly specialized use cases, which we don't see often, but they do exist. After we've decided what material we want the shutter to be made of, now we need to think about the frame style and the louver size. As I mentioned, louvers are typically a 2.5, a 3.5, or a 4.5 inch. However, when it comes to frames, there's a lot. There's inside mount, there's outside mount, there's trim mount, there's L frames and Z frames and colonial frames and sill butts and sill gaps and lots of different styles. One of the most common styles would definitely be either an L frame or a Z frame. And so like this one here, where it's inside mount with an L frame, is a very clean look. However, you're going to see a little bit of shadowing or a light gap around the shutter when it's inside mount. For that reason, a lot of people will do a Z frame where it overlaps the trim because it tightens up that gap, but now it's protruding onto the trim. The right frame will really depend on two things: the install application and the overall style that we're going for. One of the smaller features of a shutter that still impacts the look is the actual color or metal finish of the hinge. Some people will paint match, you can do brass, you can do silver, you can do black, but it can really change the look of a shutter even by just changing the look of the hinge. The other thing that really changes both the look and the function is the tilt bar or the operation. Shutters can actually be motorized by some of the different brands, but most of them are going to have a tilt bar that's either on the front, in the back, or geared where there's no tilt bar at all. One of the other really important things to think about is if it's going to be rabbeted or astragal. And so that's where the doors are going to actually meet each other or have a slight overlap. Shutters are actually a very functional and practical window treatment. However, they're not necessarily the most economical option. And when we get into larger windows, we may have to break the shutter panels up into multiple sections and install what's called a T-post, which is a permanent fixture in the window so that the shutter doors have something to connect to. All in all, shutters are a great option, and we could have a 45-minute video just on shutters because there's a lot of different styles and a lot of different configurations and ways to put this product together. However, just remember, they're timeless, durable, easy to clean, great at room darkening, and also great for energy efficiency while adding a classic and timeless look to a space. Check out some of these inspo photos.